Hey YouTube, John Green 1990 here to discuss She-Hulk Season 1, Episode 4. There was a lot in it. Sadly, it was not my favorite. This one, for the legal court battle, was Jen teaming up with Wong, the current Sorcerer Supreme, to essentially take down a magician fraud who is using part of what he learned from the true sorcerers and the hideaway place where Wong trains the disciples to do parlor tricks, specifically opening the portals, doing the circle ring thing. I did like seeing some of that. So beginning, we kind of get an idea of Donnie is the fake magician doing his thing, not getting along. Then he starts opening portals, and one instance in particular with Madison, she goes into with Wong. Surprisingly, I did like how Madison and Wong kind of buddied up. That to me was cool. And then we kind of shift to scene where Jennifer Walters is making a dating profile, and Wong shows up. He's like, "Hey, I want to go after this Charlatan magician," and so she starts asking questions like, "Did you have him sign a contract?" No, no. She talks about law, which she says the Book of Ashanti. That was in the trailer, I believe. So to me, it was interesting that actually popped up in this episode. So I mean, the trailer for the actual series, and so to me, that was interesting to see. They do essentially take Donnie to court, which I think is kind of ironic. The judge is like, "Why are you here?" It's like you can't put a label on magic. And then when Donnie keeps doing his fake magic, especially the smoke on, she's like, "Stop!" But then he pulls out a cute rabbit. It's like, "Oh," and like, unless you have evidence, get out of her. Because whether or not too, they had brought Madison, and she wasn't the best helpful witness. Because to me, it seemed like she was intoxicated. I did think it was funny her nickname for Wongers. We like we transition and see essentially Jen, still working on her dating profile, decides to finally listen to the advice of her paralegal and do a She-Hulk, which she ends up getting a lot of pings and people liking it. I do find this interesting because the comics, Jen Walters necessarily didn't always get the guys who have the best luck, but She-Hulk often was seen as hooking up with a lot of people, or specifically a lot of big name heroes like Wolverine, Hercules. I mean, she hooked up with the Juggernaut as well. I don't remember a lot of the big ones. I mean, I followed the She-Hulk comics a little, but not to the extent that I followed the Hulk comics. We transitioned from her to essentially doing the She-Hulk profile to actually kissing, making out with a guy on the couch. So before this, we saw essentially that Donnie was up to his old shenanigans, doing Portal. He essentially had a witness who saw a typical diner. She's like, "I don't want to get stuck in." It's like, "My friend had this happen last week." "Oh, there's something new in." Has a dove, lays an egg on a girl, turns up to be a little demon, spawns, throws it back. It's like no big deal, but then portal stays open and more and more and more little demons are coming out. And then he goes to Wong. So he's not the best, but when he's in need, apparently he can go to who he needs. So I would say he has innate abilities. If only he stayed trained. Sadly, he didn't. And so then we see him. He shows up and Wong. He's like, "Help me." He's like, "Fine." He's like, "I'm helping you, not for you, but for the universe." Then he goes like, "Call my lawyer." "Who?" "Call my lawyer." Calls her. She's making out with a guy, big, handsome, buffy guy apparently, and then can't go over. So then Wong, who's probably like, "Jen." It's like, "Where?" It's like, "Come." She goes. She's like, "Fine." She's like, "I like you guys." Like, "No." She gets there. She's like, "What do you want me to do?" He's trying. He's like, "I fix Rose," and he's like, "Be a Hulk." I thought that was perfect. I'm like, I like that little twist. Like, be a Hulk. Be who you are, or you become. She ends up having a decent, amazing, or having a nice fight scene, fending off these little demons while helping Wong. Her and Wong have some tag team, which I thought was cool. And they end up, before I get into portal, everything started out. Before they do, she grabs one of the big demons, says to the magician, and the person I mentioned is he had an older kind of grandpa, or an older African American gentleman I have to wonder if this is a link to the next Sorcerer Supreme. So the Sorcerer Supreme after Doctor Strange, wrong. We also have uh, Voodoo. I forget his actual name, but he had like a red cape, stick. He had, did like voodoo magic. And so I have to wonder if that's kind of like a nod to him, or if we're going to see like a relative related to this old man is actually voodoo. To me, that would be interesting to see. So I don't remember exactly his name. The full owner is voodoo something. And so to me, it would be interesting to see that connection. And then, so we're at that point where Jen's got essentially the demon. She's like, you need to sign the cease and cease. The old man's like, absolutely. Donnie's like, maybe. She's like, fine, fine, I'll do it. She's like, all right, great. Laura's gonna be in touch. Throws him back in the portal, and Wong sends her back to her date. She has a nice night with her date. Wakes up, she's making this big old breakfast as Jen. Date comes out, and he's all like, "Who are you?" She's like, "Oh, I'm Jen. I'm She-Hulk." It's like I made breakfast. Like, yeah, no, I gotta go. Bye. And to me, it's because she wasn't She-Hulk. They hooked up with her with the big She-Hulk muscles. But Jennifer Walters isn't as appealing. And so to me, that was a little sad to see. I do like that we're seeing that because the comics, we did see some of it. The main comic was she didn't transform back and forth. She was She-Hulk. So to me, it's interesting that they're doing that aspect. I like that. I like the aspect where we bring Wong in to explain some of the stuff going on because we haven't. The MCU has not introduced mutants yet that we're aware of. We know that's coming based on Phase 5 and 6 Marvel's doing. So I'm excited to see where that comes in. But for the moment, we're getting the magic. We're getting the Norse mythology stuff from New Asgard. To me, it feels a little hokey. I get it, but I feel like it feels like something's still lacking for the show. I did it. Said I did enjoy the Wong stuff, seeing Wong, the interactions with him, and the action, and then seeing some of the stuff related to the comics with the dating profile, with how people like the strong She-Hulk, but they don't like the average Jen Walters. So if you like this video, my comments, my thoughts, please give me a like, subscribe, uh, give me a dislike if you didn't like this. This is Jolly Green 1990 signing off. I'll see you later. Bye, YouTube.